A lone skyscraper pierces the moonlit clouds, setting the stage for a final confrontation. A glowing heroine declares with grim finality that their long-running conflict is at its end. Below, a man in a top hat watches her descend, his long coat billowing in the wind. Agostic smirks, adjusting his tie and offering a condescending compliment to his rival. Stardust furiously rejects his words, her shadowed face contorted with pure rage. He calmly reveals that their rivalry is now over as she's become too predictable for his amusement. His unexpected announcement leaves the powerful heroine utterly speechless and confused. Purple energy envelopes his shoes as he declares this will be their very last meeting. Agostic then begins to dematerialize, falling backward into a cascade of digital particles. Simultaneously, a massive explosion from the rooftop sends Stardust hurtling into the sky. Blasted skyward, Stardust reaches out in a desperate last-ditch effort to stop him. The villain observes her frantic reaction with detached curiosity while his body fades away. The narrative rewinds a few years, revealing a solitary figure perched on a skyscraper's ledge. From his high vantage point, the cloaked man gazes out over a vast modern city. Identified as 22-year-old Kim Dane, he wearily confirms his location as the City of Seoul. His moment of reflection is shattered by a violent explosion erupting from the city streets. Down below, a B-rank villain effortlessly fends off two lower-ranked heroes. Holding the iconic mask, he realizes this world is a far cry from the peaceful Seoul he once knew. This is a world defined by the constant struggle between terrifying villains and flying superheroes. A sinister smile spreads across his face as he realizes he's been reborn inside his favorite comic, Stardust. He resolves to become a villain with a singular hidden purpose in mind. With a flash of purple energy, he instantly teleports to a nearby rooftop. An associate frantically questions his actions, but he calmly confirms his sudden movement. Now in full villain attire, the newly dubbed Egostick casually suggests a brief rest. He reassures his unseen partner, Seo Yoon, that this is all part of a meticulous plan. Using his knowledge of the future, he intends to eliminate powerful villains while they are still weak. His true goal is to protect his favorite character, Stardust, from the suffering she's fated to endure. His first target lounges on a sofa, completely oblivious to the danger he's in. Agostic smirks, brandishing a pistol and grateful for the powers that enable his secret mission. He demonstrates his first ability by teleporting his weapon directly beside the unsuspecting villain's head. The A-rank villain Rhino recoils in terror as Agostic demonstrates his second ability, psychokinesis. Agostic's imposing silhouette looms over his target, delivering a silent final judgment. After neutralizing the threat, he discovers blueprints confirming Rhino was planning another devastating attack. A flashback reveals this man was fated to become Rhino, a major S-rank villain in the original story. By acting now, Agostic has prevented the future chaos tied to the villain's discarded rhinoceros mask. His partner, Seo-eun, warns him over the comms that authorities will arrive in 5 minutes. She then casually requests he bring her an ice cream bar, undercutting the tension of their mission. Before making his exit, Agostic dips his finger into the red evidence left at the scene. He proceeds to write a cryptic message across the large window for the heroes to discover. With a sinister grin, he presents his handiwork, believing it to be a perfect gift for his future rivals. A moment later, authorities arrive on the scene and officially identify the victim as the A-rank villain, Rhino. Investigators quickly connect the case to a previous incident, realizing a serial villain hunter is at work. An officer nervously hands over a notepad, drawing his superior's attention to a disturbing discovery. The camera pans to reveal the cryptic message Agostic left scrawled across the windowpane. Stardust clenches her fists in pure rage, vowing to capture the audacious culprit responsible for this spectacle. News of the event spreads rapidly, with public opinion surprisingly favoring the mysterious new villain. Back at his hideout, Agostic frantically shakes a monitor, shouting that his plan has a major problem. He descends into a full-blown panic, realizing his actions have had unforeseen consequences. His loud outburst is cut short by the arrival of his partner, who is clearly tired of his theatrics. The brilliant Han Seo-eun, ice cream in hand, calmly demands to know what has him so worked up. He panics, realizing the public sees him as a hero, which completely undermines his plan. Agostic explains to Seo-eun that his growing popularity will only make his rival, Stardust, look bad. With renewed conviction, he clenches his fists, resolving to become an undeniably evil figure. He instructs his partner to get ready for their next move, but she remains unimpressed by his drama. A confident smirk appears on his face as he points forward, ready to launch his true villainous debut. He selects equipment from a hidden armory, announcing it's time for Agostic to make his grand entrance. He arms a powerful explosive, carefully placing it in a bag for his next public appearance. The scene shifts to a towering skyscraper, revealing the grand stage he has chosen for his act. A silent countdown begins as unsuspecting civilians enjoy their time inside the building's observatory. His face suddenly appears on every screen, formally introducing the villain Agostic to his terrified audience. His broadcast sparks immediate terror as civilians inside the observatory scream in panic. Agostic's face looms over the city from a skyscraper screen, claiming responsibility for taking down previous villains. He then dismisses his past deeds and dramatically gestures towards another prominent tower in the distance. Citizens watching from home quickly identify the first location as the famous 127 Tower. The villain then shifts his focus, pointing out his second target, the 61-building observatory. Inside that very observatory, the crowd realizes with dawning horror that they are the ones in danger. With a sinister grin, Agostic reveals his terrifying plan. He has planted explosives in both buildings. The broadcast cuts to the trapped civilians, showing their desperate and futile attempts to escape the lockdown area. Across the city, a man watching the live feed is so stunned by the announcement that he chokes on his drink. Surrounded by a swarm of cameras, Agostic declares the game has begun, challenging a hero to step forward and stop him. He confidently calls out to Souls a rank hero Stardust, personally inviting her to try and stop him. Just as he predicted, the golden-haired heroine is already rocketing towards his position with incredible speed. He takes a moment to mentally check his villainous attire, ensuring every piece of his costume is perfect. Adjusting his mask, he feels an unexpected tremor of excitement at the thought of finally meeting his idol. Stardust makes a ground-shattering entrance, landing with enough force to create a massive shockwave. He watches from his vantage point as she gracefully emerges from the cloud of dust and debris. The villain is momentarily stunned into silence, completely mesmerized by her powerful arrival. The rank hero Stardust stands tall, radiating an aura of unwavering confidence and strength. Seeing his favorite character in the flesh leaves Agostic blushing and utterly starstruck, his composure slipping. The dust finally clears, leaving the hero and the villain standing face to face on the rooftop battlefield. Agostic quickly straightens his posture, attempting to project an air of villainous confidence. The story then rewinds, showing a terrified young man stumbling through a dark, unfamiliar alley. He clutches the wall for support, grunting in pain and confusion from his sudden arrival. Slumped against the brick, he desperately wishes to return to his own world. A sudden flash of light catches his attention, pulling him from his despair. He looks up to see a massive holographic billboard featuring the hero Stardust. His initial confusion gives way to dawning disbelief as he stares at the advertisement. A blush spreads across his face as the impossible truth finally clicks into place. The billboard confirms his suspicions, identifying the hero and the world he's been thrown into. His first thought is a simple one. Becoming a hero might be the only way to get close to her. He recalls the tragic future he knows awaits her, a future filled with pain and loss. He realized that even as a hero, he would be powerless against the villains destined to harm her. To truly save her, he determined that becoming a villain was the only path forward. Back in the present, Stardust glares at him with pure hatred, finally putting a name to her new enemy. He calmly meets her gaze, his true intentions hidden behind his mask and the shadow of his hat. As she prepares to charge, he raises a detonator, freezing her in her tracks while floating cameras record everything. He silently dedicates his villainy to her, issuing a nonverbal warning not to take another step. A sinister smile plays on his lips as he dares her to test the consequences of her defiance. The story flashes back again, revealing a 15-year-old Kim Dane snacking on popcorn in his living room. He erupts into laughter while watching a goofy superhero show, completely captivated by the world on his screen. Young Kim Dane finds the villain on TV hilariously over the top. He questions the villain's extreme personality while enjoying his snacks. Years later, Agostic shares the same manic energy as the villain he once mocked. Stardust fumes at Agostic's televised antics. Agostic gestures dramatically towards a screen displaying the trapped civilians. He points out his second target, setting the stage for a confrontation with Stardust. Moments earlier, Agostic tips his hat to Stardust as she arrives. He addresses Stardust directly, confident in his control of the situation. Agostic presents the stage he's created for their showdown. Stardust demands the release of the hostages, promising a swift defeat. Agostic mockingly agrees to her demand, announcing he'll unlock the elevators for the hostages. The heroine narrows her eyes, sensing a trap behind his easy compliance. Inside the tower, a relieved civilian immediately tries to use the newly unlocked elevator. But Agostic's face reappears on a screen, revealing a cruel twist to his game. He explains that escaping one building will doom everyone in the other, leaving Stardust horrified. The villain gives them a 30-minute time limit before both bombs explode regardless. He then cruelly tempts the hostages, reminding them that the lives they'd be sacrificing are those of strangers. The villain erupts into a fit of laughter, relishing the chaos he's created for the entire city to see. Stardust clenches her jaw in pure fury, utterly disgusted by his sadistic ultimatum. Through the lens of a camera, he announces that his game has officially begun, a grand spectacle of human nature. Inside the tower, panic erupts as the hostages argue over sacrificing the other building's occupants to save themselves. The moral dilemma tears them apart with some urging action while others recoil at the deadly choice before them. A trapped civilian looks on helplessly, losing hope and questioning why Stardust hasn't saved them yet. Meanwhile, Stardust weighs her options, realizing a direct attack is too risky if Agostic has a backup plan. Her eyes burn with cold fury as she confronts the villain, disgusted by his cruel game with innocent lives. Agostic calmly dismisses her anger, instead offering a surprisingly detailed and respectful analysis of her heroic ideals. His unexpected compliments leave the heroine completely baffled, unsure how to react to his bizarre behavior. He continues his monologue explaining that seeing a hero of her stature completely powerless is the real spectacle. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he declares her current helplessness to be truly inspiring to him. With his shoes glowing ominously, he offers her a chance to join his game, promising to connect her with the hostages who need a hero. He begins to teleport away, leaving Stardust completely baffled by his strange proposal. The villain explains that if she can successfully inspire the hostages to hold out for 30 minutes, he promises with a sinister grin that the bombs will be disarmed, adding a new twist to his game. Stardust glares with suspicion, finding it impossible to trust the words of her manipulative new foe. He calmly dismisses her doubt, pointing out that this is her only chance to act. With a dramatic snap of his fingers, he sets the stage for her public address. A swarm of drones and cameras activate, counting down to broadcast her live across the city. Her image is suddenly projected onto every screen, turning the entire city into her audience. Down below, citizens look up in awe as their hero's face appears on massive billboards. Stardust begins her broadcast, delivering a message of hope directly to the terrified hostages. Agostic watches from afar, satisfied that everything is proceeding exactly as he envisioned. His role is simple, to be the villain who creates the crisis, setting the stage for the hero. All Stardust has to do is shine brightly for the cameras, becoming the symbol of hope he needs her to be. He mentally dedicates the entire spectacle to her, a grand performance designed for her alone. Stardust rallies the hostages, urging them to stand strong and prove their resilience against evil. Her powerful words reach the trapped civilians, inspiring them to hold on to their faith and not give in to fear. A subtle smile forms on Agostic's face, a sign that her successful speech was part of his intricate design. The timer suddenly glitches, flashing down to the final 5 seconds as Stardust watches the screen. As the countdown nears its end, the hostages brace themselves, praying and holding their loved ones close. With only 2 seconds left, Stardust stares intently, her determined expression betraying a hint of nervous sweat. The countdown hits 0 as the hostages brace for the inevitable, holding each other in their final moments. A mother shields her child with a look of terrified resignation, accepting their shared fate. Elsewhere in the tower, a couple shares a final fearful embrace, finding solace only in each other. Stardust stands among the now harmless drones, stunned that not a single person chose to sacrifice the others. Agostic clutches his head in disbelief, his plan to expose human selfishness completely shattered by their altruism. He stares down at the heroine, unable to comprehend their actions, as she calmly refutes his cynical worldview. Stardust declares her unwavering faith in humanity's inherent goodness, a belief that just saved hundreds of lives. The villain has a sudden epiphany, realizing Stardust's inspiring words were the true catalyst for their unity. Instead of anger, a wide amused grin spreads across Agostic's face at this unexpected development. As Stardust charges, he vanishes in a flash of purple energy, leaving behind a promise that their next encounter will be different. Agostic teleports away with a look of utter shock, his plan having gone sideways. Stardust glares after him, dismissing the rookie villain's antics with fiery determination. She lands triumphantly on a bridge, securing a clear victory in the eyes of the public. Below, the citizens of Seoul erupt into cheers, chanting the name of their victorious hero. Meanwhile, Agostic reappears in a flash of purple energy, stumbling through an empty corridor. His grand escape ends with an ungraceful faceplant, his body slamming into the hard floor. The villain lies trembling on the ground, his cool demeanor replaced by comical agony. A flashback reveals the fatal flaw in his power. The farther he teleports, the more damage he sustains. His partner Seo-eun finds him collapsed on the floor, immediately criticizing his choice of headwear. She calls his villain persona lame while he weakly pleads for a glass of water, utterly defeated. Seo-eun coldly tells him to get his own water, leaving the pathetic villain sprawled on the floor. Meanwhile, news reports celebrate the successful rescue, confirming Stardust's victory with 0 casualties. The heroine clenches her fist, disgusted by his mind games and vowing to capture him without fail next time. His partner finally gives him water, but not in the way he expected, pouring it directly onto his face. The scene shifts to the imposing headquarters of the Korean Hero Association where the incident is being discussed. Inside, a presentation displays headlines from across the nation, all focused on the new villain, Agostic. An official analysis report on Agostic is presented, detailing what little information they have on the masked villain. The president of the Hero Association, Park Jun-ho, officially begins the high-level briefing on their new A-rank threat. He impatiently dismisses a review of Agostic's previous takedowns, demanding they skip to the new information. The briefing focuses on yesterday's incident, revealing their theory that Agostic used teleportation to plant the bombs. Analysis reveals the bombs were custom-made and powerful enough to completely obliterate the entire observatory. The association president clutches his head, realizing the villain is not just a showman but a skilled bomb maker. A subordinate reports they're completely clueless as to how Agostic bypassed their advanced security to hijack the broadcast. They theorize he has a highly skilled accomplice who likely handled both the broadcast and the explosives. The presenter then moves on to the most crucial piece of their psychological profile on the new villain. He reveals that Agostic appears to have a dangerous obsession with Stardust, who sits listening intently. The evidence is clear. He left a message for her at a previous crime scene and called her out by name. A flashback confirms his specific focus on Seoul's A-rank hero during his citywide terror broadcast. The president turns directly to the heroine, asking for her personal assessment of the man she faced. Stardust remains silent, her gloved hand resting on the table as she considers her response. Stardust gives her cold assessment, concluding that Agostic is a manipulative psychopath and an undeniable villain. 2 days later, Kim Dane is still suffering the consequences of his teleport, moaning pathetically in his bed. Having finally recovered enough to stand, he immediately heads to the fridge for a drink. He's immediately called out for his bad manners, spitting his drink out in a comical display of surprise. His partner, the unimpressed super genius Han Seo-eun, stands with her arms crossed as he frantically denies the accusation. He internally reveals that this girl is a genius hacker who played a major role in the original comic. He knows that, in the original story, she was fated to become a fearsome S-rank villain, but he's recruited her instead. A cute diagram reveals he's just a freeloader living above her massive underground base, a fact she's quick to point out. She sternly repeats her command, reminding him to use a cup like a civilized person. He nonchalantly agrees to her demand, patting her on the head and leaving the young genius momentarily flustered. Seo-eun declares an urgent situation, dragging a flailing Dane across the room with surprising strength. Back in the control room, Dane brings up a potential accomplice he'd mentioned before, a fan named Lee Soo-bin. His partner confirms she's located their target, pointing directly at a monitor displaying the information. She reveals a shocking development. A group of egotistic copycats are holding hostages in Incheon. Dane realizes with horror that their potential recruit is trapped in the middle of the very same hostage crisis. Seo Yun clarifies that the woman isn't a hostage, but one of the armed terrorists leading the attack. The news gets worse with reports of fatalities and hundreds of hostages, forcing Dane to get serious. He turns to his partner, solemnly asking her to state the one rule they always follow. His fist tightens as they both recall their core principle: never harm innocent civilians. With a dark and determined expression, he resolves to stop the copycat villains and asks Seo Yun for her assistance. He decides to assess their potential recruits' loyalty on-site before making a final decision. Meanwhile, Stardust arrives at the scene of the copycat attack, a building engulfed in smoke and flames. She hovers above the chaos, requesting permission to engage while her command authorizes lethal force if negotiations fail. Her resolve is shattered by a sudden report, leaving her stunned to learn Agostic is somehow involved. She reflects on how terrorism was once a straightforward battle of superpowers against supervillains. But Agostic's methods are different, relying on psychological pressure and public spectacle rather than raw power. The heroine grits her teeth, frustrated that a copycat has already emerged to mimic his cruel tactics. Her command suddenly chimes in, revealing Agostic is not just there. He's broadcasting the entire crisis live. A phone screen confirms the news, showing livestream to a rapidly growing audience. The broadcast is already trending, with viewers treating the life or death situation like a new form of entertainment. The copycat villains are caught off guard by a sudden arrival, demanding to know the intruder's identity. They are stunned into silence as the real Agostic reveals himself, believing their idol has come to join them. The fanatics erupt in celebration, convinced their hero has arrived to personally carry out their twisted justice. Agostic, however, is silently fuming, annoyed that these imposters forced him to endure a painful long-distance teleport. His unenthusiastic demeanor makes the copycats hesitate, one of them nervously questioning if he's truly their leader. Ignoring them, he receives intel from his partner and calmly identifies the terrorist holding the bomb's detonator. Without a word, he lunges forward in a blur, instantly closing the distance to his target. He swiftly neutralizes the detonator holder, bringing the immediate threat to a decisive end. A copycat realizes in horror that this man isn't their savior, but an enemy disguised as their hero. Agostic calmly walks past the remaining terrorists, his silent authority freezing them in their tracks. A copycat recoils in shock as Agostic materializes a weapon directly in front of him. With a flick of his wrist, he uses psychokinesis to aim an arsenal of floating guns at the remaining terrorists. He smirks condescendingly, making it clear he would never associate with such incompetent imposters. Outside, smoke billows from the building, signaling the violent confrontation happening within. Stardust accelerates towards the chaos, her expression grim as she confirms her orders to engage. Inside, Lee Subin stares down the barrel of a levitating gun, frozen in absolute terror. Seo Yun's voice crackles over the comms, revealing the girl was an unwilling participant forced into the situation. Agostic approaches the terrified woman, who is now pleading for him to spare her life. He calmly removes his own mask, offering it to her in a silent, unexpected gesture. Overwhelmed and flustered, Lee Subin tearfully admits her wrongdoing under his intense gaze. The hostages watch in stunned silence as Lee Subin confesses her guilt before the villain. Agostic playfully threatens her with a glowing gun, demanding she stop her tears. He then turns to the camera, bowing deeply and taking full responsibility for the copycat incident he inspired. The villain shocks everyone by promising to send financial compensation to all the victims and their families. He inwardly frets over the logistics of untraceable payments, deciding to dump the problem on his partner. Over the comms, an exhausted Seo Yun urges him to finish the mission and bring their new recruit home. Without warning, he scoops up the terrified Lee Subin, preparing for a swift escape. The villain comically struggles with the immense pain caused by teleporting with an extra person. Just as he's about to leave, Stardust bursts through the wall in a devastating explosion of power. Caught completely off guard, he looks up to see his favorite hero has finally arrived on the scene. Stardust surges through the dust cloud, her eyes locked on the villain with fierce determination. The scene shifts to the peaceful campus of Yanhee University, marking a jump forward in time. News reports confirm Agostic's bizarre promise, showing he actually paid compensation to all the victims. In her civilian guise, the hero sits alone in a sunlit room scrolling through her phone. Identified as Shin-Ru, she sighs in frustration, clearly troubled by the news about her nemesis. A flashback shows her being knocked through a building during a previous unseen battle. She recalls her vow to capture Agostic, her expression filled with burning resolve. Back in the present confrontation, she lunges forward, reaching out to finally apprehend the villain. Just as she closes in, Agostic's legs give out from the strain of his powers, causing him to fall. Stardust grits her teeth in frustration as her hand closes on empty air, missing him by a mere inch. She soars through the air, her attack missing its mark as the villain vanishes at the last second. Back in her civilian life, a frustrated Shin Haru sighs heavily while trying to study in a cafe. Her senior Kim Chae-hyun approaches with a drink, asking if an assignment is giving her trouble. Haru quickly denies being distracted, pretending to be focused on her notes after being lost in thought. A narrative panel explains she uses a special filter to conceal her heroic identity as Stardust. Despite her disguise, her natural charisma still turns heads, making her stand out in a crowd. The true source of her frustration is revealed to be her ongoing obsession with the villain, Agostic. Her notebook is filled with his name as she tries to decipher his cynical philosophy about humanity. She struggles to understand his contradictory actions, questioning why he saved the hostages if he believes everyone is selfish. Her friend snaps her out of her brooding, playfully teasing her for looking so serious and causing Rue to blush. Chae-hyun brightly suggests they ditch their work for Rue's favorite mango dessert. The mere mention of mango instantly lifts Haru's spirits, her eyes sparkling with excitement, but her good mood is shattered by a sudden intrusive memory of Agostic's maniacal laughter. Her friend realizes with concern that even the promise of dessert can't shake Haru's dark thoughts. Haru grips her pen tightly, her mind still fixated on the villain who has stolen her peace. She grits her teeth in frustration, furious that Agostic has taken over her mind and renews her vow to capture him. Despite her intense brooding, her friend finds her pouting adorable and offers her a bite of dessert. The scene shifts to a seemingly normal house in Seoul where a woman approaches the front gate. Inside, she bypasses the ordinary entrance and heads towards a second hidden door. A high-tech door slides open, revealing the secret entrance to the villain's underground lair. Behind the hidden door, a secret elevator is revealed, ready to take their new recruit down. Lee Subin carefully enters the security code, granting her access to the hidden depths. The elevator plummets dozens of stories, descending deep into the earth toward the villain's lair. She arrives at the ego base where Dane is already relaxing, while Seowon complains about him naming her house. He playfully argues that her house is his house, a statement she immediately dismisses as nonsense. His casual demeanor shatters as he cries out in agony, prompting Seoun to tell him to stop whining. From inside a recovery pod, Dane explains that teleporting with another person doubles the physical toll. The narrative highlights his partner's true identity, the super genius Han Seo-yoon. Unfazed by his dramatics, Seo-yoon simply tries to find her place in the book she was reading. Meanwhile, Dane blissfully enjoys the healing effects of the recovery capsule, calling it the best invention ever. He gives a thumbs up from his pod, getting a deadpan response from a confused. Their new recruit, Lee Subin, arrives with groceries explaining that the fridge was completely empty. She nervously offers him a snack, causing Dane to internally panic about a wanted criminal casually shopping for them. Subin proudly explains she used her bangs as a disguise, a plan Dane finds even more suspicious. Their conversation is interrupted by a tiny excited Seo-yoon, who sprints towards Subin demanding an ice cream bar. Dane watches in disbelief, wondering if they recruited a new member just to run errands for them. Now out of the pod, he questions why Subin is there as she hands the prized ice cream to Seo-yoon. Seo-yoon casually reveals she needed Subin's help with a task, leaving Dane utterly flabbergasted. He argues against her presence, fearing she might turn on them, but Seo-yoon calmly dismisses his concerns. She defends their new ally, clarifying that Subin was an unwilling participant forced into the copycat incident. Dane confirms the woman's identity, leaving Lee Subin stunned that he knows her name. Seo-won coolly interjects, claiming to know everything about their potential recruit while enjoying her ice cream. She reveals Subin's parents were researchers for the notorious Haenin Group, a name tied to a tragic past. The revelation leaves Subin visibly shaken, unable to comprehend how they know her secret history. Seo-yoon explains she easily bypassed Subin's online security, finding posts that revealed a deep desire for revenge. Subin is left speechless as Seo-yoon recounts her vow to make Haenin pay for what they did to her parents. The young genius then reveals her own personal vendetta, stating she's also targeting Haenin's leaders. With a look of cold fury, Seo Yoon extends a hand, formally inviting Subin to join her quest for vengeance. Dane watches the interaction intently, his expression turning serious as he understands the situation. He realizes Subin is another victim of the shadowy Hanan group, just like his partner Seo Eun. Dane reflects on recruiting Seo Eun by promising her revenge, a move that also saved her from a villainous future. He then considers their new recruit, dismissing Lee Subin as a minor character from the original story and questioning her potential. His train of thought is shattered by the sight Seo Eun and Subin locked in a sudden tearful embrace on the floor. Dane stares in utter confusion as the two girls continue their dramatic, emotional bonding. He internally comments on the bizarre scene, noting that he's completely lost and Seo Eun's tough persona is crumbling. Deciding to stay out of it, he retreats to his recovery pod while the girls continue their heartfelt moment. The story shifts to a restaurant where other diners murmur and stare at a tense situation unfolding at one table. A woman trembles in fear, pleading with her dining companion to leave her alone. Her pursuer, a man with purple hair, glares at her with irritation, annoyed that she's making a scene. A police officer intervenes, but the man arrogantly dismisses him, refusing to be interrupted during his meal. The officer grabs the man's arm, officially placing him under arrest for his non-compliance. A surge of red energy erupts as the man's teleportation power activates at the moment of contact. In an instant, the officer is transported to the top of a skyscraper, completely bewildered by the sudden change of scenery. He looks down in sheer terror, realizing he's now falling from a dizzying height. The villain casually kicks the officer off the ledge, sending him plummeting towards the streets below. Now identified as the rank villain Hak Chul, he smirks menacingly from his high-rise perch. A vision of the original story reveals a dark future where Stardust is overwhelmed by monstrous dragons. This grim timeline also shows Han Seo Yoon as the powerful S-rank villain, the White Witch. But in the present, the future S-rank villain is just a teenager, furiously accusing Dane of drinking all her orange juice. Dane panics under her wrath while Subin smiles warmly, watching the chaotic scene unfold. Seo and Subin share a warm embrace, their new friendship solidifying as they do chores together. Dane watches them, suddenly questioning if Seo Eun has finally stopped pretending to be a boy. He recalls the time she used to call him bro, laughing at the memory of her past persona. The narrative shifts, revealing Han Seo Eun's true identity as a superintelligent individual. A flashback shows she is the only survivor of the Hanan group's horrific experiments on children. One day, an unexpected power surge from another child caused a catastrophic incident. The resulting explosion destroyed the entire facility, leaving no one else alive. Only Suin managed to crawl from the wreckage, battered but determined. She escaped the ruins and found shelter in the basement that would become her secret base. For years, the young genius lived in complete isolation, honing her skills in the shadows. A flashback reveals the moment Dane first appeared before a young, isolated Suwon. He found her defensive and hostile but offered her a chance at revenge against those who wronged her. The young genius trembled with rage, brandishing a fork as her only weapon against the intruder. He extended a hand in peace, assuring the terrified girl that he meant her no harm. With a confident smile, he declared his true purpose was not to hurt her, but to save her from her lonely fate. He recalls her tragic destiny in the original story, vowing to prevent her from becoming a villain who dies alone. Back in the present, he questions if she's already a villain by association, but resolves to lead her down a better path. A chibified Suyun playfully dismisses his curiosity, highlighting their now comfortable dynamic. His thoughts shift to their new recruit, recalling Lee Subin's tragic past and impressive academic achievements. He foresees Subin's future role, realizing her computer skills will be a vital asset to Seo Yoon's operations. He admits his suspicion of their new recruit, a character not from the original story, but her amazing cooking skills have won him over. He proudly presents his latest invention, a tiny spider-like location tracking sensor. Seo Yoon questions the purpose of the device, prompting Dane to remind her of their true objective. He reveals their next target is the rank villain Hak Chul, a powerful teleporter. A diagram illustrates Hak Chul's ability to teleport endlessly without penalty, making him impossible to catch with psychokinesis. He complains about the physical toll of his own teleportation, but Seo Yoon energetically orders him to get back to work. Now in full costume, Egostic prepares to infiltrate the target's location but gets a sharp command from Seo Yoon to hurry up. He hesitates to teleport in blindly, but Seo-eun impatiently explains her plan to tag the villain with the tracker. She reveals the tracker is faster than a bullet, dismissing his confusion and once again ordering him into action. He questions the complex plan, only for Seo-eun to angrily explain that their target never walks, making a direct ambush the only option. Back in the base, Seo-eun chugs a water bottle, while Subin nervously watches the mission unfold. Subin blushes as she cheers for Agostic, becoming his newest and most devoted fan. Even the stoic Seo-eun can't help but blush, offering a rare and awkward cheer for her partner. Agostic smirks with confidence, announcing to his team that the operation is officially underway. He teleports directly into Hak Chul's apartment, catching the rank villain completely by surprise. The teleporter's eyes widen in shock, realizing he's no longer alone in his private residence. Wasting no time, Agostic aims 2 pistols, preparing to launch the tracking devices. He fires, sending the spider-like trackers hurtling through the air on a curved trajectory. But Hak Chul reacts instantly, vanishing in a flash of red energy just as the trackers arrive. Agostic yells in frustration, desperately asking Seo-eun if the tracker managed to attach before the villain escaped. Back at the base, Seo-eun urgently demands the villain's new coordinates from their hacker. Agostic immediately teleports again, hot on the trail of his elusive target. He materializes in the middle of a busy street, instantly drawing the shocked attention of the public. The villain realizes his covert mission has become a public spectacle, a complication he didn't anticipate. His unexpected appearance immediately goes viral, with citizens live streaming the dangerous event. Meanwhile, in a quiet university lecture hall, Shin Haru is completely unaware of the unfolding chaos. Her peaceful student life is shattered as an urgent dispatch comes through her earpiece from the Hero Association. The news of her nemesis' public appearance sends a jolt of pure shock through the undercover heroine. She hastily excuses herself from class, her duty as Stardust taking precedence over her civilian life. Her friend watches her go, left to wonder about the sudden urgency that pulled Haru away. Stardust plummets towards the city, determined to uncover Agostic's latest scheme. On the ground, Agostic gets new intel from his partner, pinpointing his target's location at a nearby crosswalk. The villain Hak Chul stumbles in the street, clutching his arm where the tracker successfully made contact. With his target confirmed, Agostic teleports forward, ready to end the chaotic chase. But back at the base, Seo-eun screams a desperate warning, having spotted an unforeseen threat. A massive truck suddenly hurtles down the road, heading directly for the unsuspecting villain. Agostic's confident smirk vanishes, replaced by sheer terror as he stares down his impending doom. A voice cuts through the night, calling out a name under a city bridge. A man named Hak Chul hangs bound and upside down, facing the criminals he double-crossed. Their leader scoffs at his pleas, his expression making it clear that money is no longer the issue. He calmly touches his cigarette to the rope, intending to sever Hak Chul's last hope. The captive's face contorts in pure terror as he begs for a second chance that will never come. The burning rope snaps, sending him plummeting toward the dark river below. He continues his descent, his body flailing helplessly against the inevitable. In his final moments, fear is replaced by a burning vow to curse his attackers. A lone splash breaks the water's surface, swallowing him into the depths. One of the men glances back, startled by a strange glowing figure that has suddenly appeared on the bridge. The criminals stare in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they're seeing. It's Hak Chul, impossibly alive and glowing with a strange glitchy energy. Snapping out of his stupor, the leader furiously orders his men to attack the resurrected man. His henchmen charge, but Hak Chul remains unervingly still, sensing the immense power coursing through him. A wicked smile spreads across his face as he realizes he's become something beyond human. He unleashes his newfound strength, moving with terrifying speed to overwhelm his former captors. The scene shifts abruptly to a massive truck barreling down the road at high speed. A mysterious figure in a fedora clings to the side of the vehicle, much to the driver's alarm. Elsewhere, the now shirtless Hak Chul glares in frustration as a different truck speeds away from him. He curses his failed attempt to stop the vehicle, realizing his incredible power still requires control. He suddenly collapses, a red energy trail linking him to a mysterious figure across the street. He recognizes the man as Agostic, realizing the villain's motives are bigger than a simple feud. He grits his teeth, deciding this fight has nothing to do with him. Elsewhere, a theatrical villain in a top hat makes his grand entrance, gun in hand. Hakshil's face pales as he realizes this new threat is hunting other villains. The teleporter announces from a rooftop that he's here to take out the trash. With a flash of purple energy, he appears right in front of Hakchil ready to strike. Enraged by the teleporter's taunts, Hakchil grabs a nearby civilian. He sends the unsuspecting woman flying with a powerful kick. The teleporter's glowing hand appears by her ear, revealing he was speaking through her all along. The teleporter effortlessly catches the civilian, presenting himself as a dashing savior in a theatrical flourish. Hakshil staggers forward, his power depleted and his feet leaving a bloody trail on the pavement. He hangs his head in defeat, questioning why he's become the target of this elaborate hunt. His body finally gives out, sending him crashing face first onto the ground before a stunned crowd. Lying helpless, he recognizes his attacker as the infamous rank villain known as the teleporter. The teleporter stands over him with a gun, declaring that Hakchul's own actions have incriminated him. A wicked smile plays on his lips as he admits to being a villain, but one with a supposed moral code. He then addresses the crowd, dramatically revealing Hakchul's past crimes of theft and murder. The public's shock turns to outrage, and they begin to chant for Hakchil's immediate punishment. Enraged and trapped, Hakchil screams at the hypocrisy of being judged by another villain. The teleporter reveals Hakchil's dark future as an S-rank villain destined to torment a hero named Stardust. Declaring they are not the same, he grimly announces that Hakchil must be eliminated now. A single gunshot rings out, and a splash of red marks the end of Hakchil's rampage. The teleporter's eye widens in shock, not at his deed, but at the crowd's bizarre reaction. Instead of fleeing in terror, the public erupts into a wave of enthusiastic cheers. He looks on, baffled by their celebration in the face of such a grim spectacle. Standing over the fallen villain, he reflects on how he can never get used to the strange people of this world. He adjusts his top hat, composing himself to face his unexpected fan club. With a theatrical flourish, he takes a deep bow, soaking in the adulation of the crowd. He then points his gun forward with a menacing grin, challenging the audience's perception of villainy. The crowd murmurs in confusion, filming the bizarre spectacle on their phones. His identity is suddenly exposed as a voice cries out his villain name, Egoistic. He looks up to see the hero Stardust descending, realizing he's drawn too much attention. She lands with immense force, creating a powerful shockwave just feet away from him. He blushes slightly, amused by her awkward hero persona clashing with her normal life. Stardust glares at him with fury, demanding to know what he thinks he has done. Hegastic calmly gestures to the fallen villain, claiming he simply did what any hero should do. His casual justification only fuels her rage, her expression hardening with contempt. He smirks, playfully questioning whether a hero even has the authority to eliminate a villain without a trial. Stardust confronts him directly, asking if he considers himself a hero, unaware of his true nature. Egoistic realizes this is the perfect televised moment to boost Stardust's public image. He theatrically praises her sense of justice, admitting his own actions were unlawful before preparing to make a graceful exit. The crowd, however, begins to murmur, questioning Stardust's late arrival and praising Egoistic's efficiency. This unexpected public support throws Egoistic off his script, leaving him momentarily flustered. He quickly recovers, comically reminding everyone he's a villain and challenging Stardust to catch him next time before making his escape. With a final flourish, he vanishes in a swirl of purple energy, leaving the hero behind. Stardust is left alone in the silence as the stunned crowd begins to slowly back away from the scene. The plaza is now a grim tableau with the fallen villain at the center and the hero standing guard. A closer look confirms Hakshil's rampage has been permanently brought to an end. Stardust glares down at the scene, her expression hardening with cold determination. Egoistic's feet hit the ground, still crackling with the residual energy of his teleport. He immediately collapses as a white-haired girl rushes to his side, calling for her companion. She explains to her bewildered friend that this is just a temporary side effect of his powers. The two women grab his arms, preparing to move their incapacitated boss to safety. They comically struggle to drag the dazed villain away from prying eyes. Meanwhile, online forums explode with support for Egoistic, openly mocking Stardust's performance. News outlets officially report Hakchil's elimination, crediting Egoistic for handling the threat before the hero arrived. Stardust sits alone, troubled by the day's events and the public's shifting allegiance. She looks out over the city from a skyscraper, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down on her. A painful memory surfaces of a dark rainy alley and a tragic loss that shaped her past. A 17-year-old Shin Haru cries out in anguish, cradling her fallen parents in a rain-soaked alley. The attacker holds up the stolen item, coldly stating that this could have all been avoided. The hooded figure then turns his attention to the girl, blaming her parents for their fate with a twisted grin. He presses his weapon against her head, but her fear is quickly consumed by a surge of pure hatred. The villain mockingly calls her fortunate to be alive, savoring her despair. He casually discards his cigarette, a final act of disrespect before turning to leave. The killer walks away into the night, abandoning the girl to her grief in the pouring rain. She clings to her parents, consumed by the crushing weight of her own powerlessness. Her sorrow hardens into a cold, unbreakable vow of vengeance against the man who took everything. Alone in the desolate alley, a future hero is forged in the crucible of loss and rage. A pillar of golden light suddenly pierces the city skyline, signaling a monumental event. In the rain-soaked alley, the young girl's tears mix with a newfound steely resolve. The light explodes outward, a silent, brilliant flash marking the birth of a new power. Her hair turns a brilliant blonde as a divine aura envelopes her, forever changing her destiny. Back in the present, Agasta groans, waking up from the debilitating after-effects of his power usage. His white-haired companion celebrates his return to consciousness with unrestrained glee. She eagerly presents him with a tablet, showing him the online buzz he's created while he recovers. An online forum is dedicated to dissecting his actions, with fans compiling a list of his greatest hits. The post recounts his impressive record of taking down both A rank and S rank villains. It even praises his theatrical terror attacks, noting they were staged for entertainment with no actual victims. The list even includes a time he stopped his own terror attack and paid off the hostages. It concludes by questioning if he's truly a villain after taking down the elusive teleporter. His companion boasts about the post's popularity, but Agostic anxiously asks about Stardust's public reception. She scoffs, showing him comments that declare him a better hero than Stardust. He's visibly distressed by the public's negative sentiment towards the hero he's trying to build up. The forum claims she's the least active A rank hero, unlike others who have saved countless lives. His companion confirms this is the prevailing public opinion, much to his dismay. To lighten the mood, she reveals he has an official fan club called the Mango Troop. He recoils in comical horror, unable to believe people have formed a fan club for a villain. Deciding he can't let this public perception stand, he activates his powers to teleport away. He immediately announces his next terror attack, much to the shock of his two companions. With a determined grin, he reveals his true motive: to make Stardust a celebrated hero once again. Meanwhile, Stardust's civilian alter ego, Shin Haru, enjoys a peaceful moment with a mango drink. She sits inside a coffee shop, oblivious to the world outside as cherry blossoms bloom. Her peace is shattered by the harsh words of nearby patrons criticizing Stardust's recent performance. They mock her late arrival, claiming she was never a match for the teleporter in the first place. The public's adoration for Agostic weighs heavily on her, making her question why her efforts are met with hate. Frustrated by her spiraling thoughts, she slaps her own cheeks to force herself to focus. Her friend's sudden question snaps her out of her daze, leaving her momentarily stunned. The friend Chai Hyun smiles warmly, encouraging the troubled hero to relax and enjoy their day off. Haru agrees with her friend, deciding to take a moment to appreciate the view. Chai Hyun then shows her phone, revealing the official fan club for Agostic, the Mango Troop. Haru's face darkens with rage, horrified that even her best friend has fallen for the villain's charm. Her friend suddenly exclaims that Agostic has started a live broadcast, catching Haru completely off guard. An urgent alert flashes on Haru's phone, officially summoning Stardust to deal with Agostic's latest challenge. She leaps to her feet, hastily telling her confused friend that she has to leave immediately. With a steely gaze, she runs from the cafe, determined to finally bring her rival to justice. Elsewhere, a lone figure stands atop a desolate cliff overlooking a set of train tracks. A holographic broadcast appears, revealing Egostic as he cheerfully announces his return. The live chat goes wild with enthusiastic fans, treating the villain's appearance like a celebrity meet and greet. He addresses his audience, acknowledging the recent praise and the existence of his fan club. With a sinister grin, he declares that his fans have completely misunderstood his true nature. Tossing his phone aside, he emphatically reminds everyone that he is and always will be a villain. The camera then reveals his grand plan, several hostages tied to 2 separate train tracks. He cheerfully announces the arrival of a train, setting his deadly game in motion. As the train barrels down the tracks, he directly challenges Stardust to watch his performance. He lays out the simple yet cruel rules of his game for the hero to follow. Stardust is presented with an impossible choice: sacrifice 1 person to save 5 or let the 5 perish. He warns her against any clever tricks, revealing the train is rigged to derail if she interferes. With a confident smirk, he declares there is only one correct choice and urges her to pull the lever. Stardust makes a dramatic entrance, landing with enough force to crack the earth as Agostic watches from above. She immediately assesses the grim situation, realizing that saving the hostages on the tracks will doom the train's passengers. The terrified faces inside the train confirm the high cost of any interference. Faced with an impossible choice, she desperately searches for a third option that saves everyone. Agostic watches with delight, eagerly anticipating the hero's agonizing decision as the train nears. His online audience debates the moral quandary, with most concluding she must sacrifice 1 to save 5. The villain, however, smirks knowingly, certain that the hero he knows will never make such a cold calculation. In a stunning move, Stardust ignores the lever and charges head-on toward the speeding train. Elsewhere, Agostic's accomplice reassures an unseen party, urging them to proceed with the plan. The villain's smug confidence shatters into pure panic, horrified by her seemingly suicidal charge. Stardust slams into the front of the train with incredible force, creating a massive shockwave. Digging her heels in, she uses her body as a brake, metal screeching as she slows the vehicle. With a look of pure determination, she grits her teeth, pouring every ounce of her power into the effort. To her shock, the train suddenly accelerates, pushing her back with overwhelming momentum. Agostic stares in disbelief, a bead of sweat tracing his temple as his plan derails. The cause is revealed as his accomplice, Subin, has fainted with her face planted on the control panel. The villain's composure cracks, his eyes wide with panic at this unforeseen complication. Unaware of the malfunction, Stardust redoubles her efforts, refusing to yield an inch. A pre-recorded message from Agostic taunts the hero, questioning what choice she will make as the train nears its destination. From his perch, he had confidently predicted she would choose the lever, underestimating her heroic resolve. A shadowy figure in a fedora tips his hat with a confident smile, believing everything is proceeding as he envisioned. Agostic is shown in a flashback carrying one of the hostages to the desolate cliffside location. He complains to himself about the difficulty of setting up his elaborate trap during the day. His gloved hands meticulously finish tying the bindings, securing another victim to the tracks. The villain looks down at the helpless hostages, feeling an odd sense of accomplishment at his work. His internal monologue reveals that he's orchestrating these events to help Stardust grow, not to simply defeat her. He sits by a message carved into the ground, framing this deadly test as a personal training session for the hero. His composure shatters as he watches Stardust's reckless charge, internally screaming at her apparent self-sacrifice. The live-stream chat mirrors his panic, with viewers freaking out over the hero's seemingly suicidal decision. However, his panic quickly fades into a sly grin, suggesting her unexpected move was exactly what he wanted. He internally notes that while Stardust is only a rank, she possesses a hidden trait unknown to others. This secret is her ability to grow exponentially stronger when faced with a true crisis. Confident in her potential, he believes she has more than enough power to stop the train. His confidence evaporates as he notices the train is inexplicably accelerating against her. The cause of the malfunction is revealed to be his accomplice, who has fainted on the controls. The villain's carefully laid plan begins to unravel, leaving him in a state of utter shock. He imagines the worst-case scenario where his staged event results in an actual casualty. This failure would not only ruin his reputation but also send his chosen hero down a dark path. Unaware of the technical difficulties, Stardust lets out a final desperate roar of exertion. She channels every last bit of her power, cracking the very ground beneath her feet to halt the train's advance. Agostic watches from his perch, desperately pleading for his plan not to end in catastrophe. The train continues its relentless push, glowing with the sheer force of the struggle. In a cloud of dust and debris, the massive vehicle finally screeches to a halt just inches from the hostages. A wave of relief washes over Agostic, a wide grin spreading across his face as disaster is narrowly averted. He anxiously watches the live feed, wondering if the hero survived the incredible impact. The camera feed flickers, showing her silhouette wavering as he begins to fear the worst. But through the settling dust, Stardust stands firm, exhausted but undeniably victorious. Agostic erupts in a silent, unrestrained celebration, overjoyed at her incredible feat of strength. He quickly catches himself, trying to regain his villainous composure after his burst of excitement. He looks down at the scene, acknowledging that while things went off script, she found her own heroic solution. The live chat explodes as the public's opinion shifts, now celebrating Stardust's incredible feat of strength. Egostic smirks, satisfied that the public is finally seeing the true hero he's been trying to create. He internally praises Stardust, whose power is fueled by her pure, unwavering desire to save everyone. The immense effort finally takes its toll, and the hero begins to collapse from sheer exhaustion. Stardust lies unconscious on the ground, her body having given its all to achieve the impossible. With a flash of purple energy, Agostic teleports to her side, kneeling over the fallen hero. She manages to utter his name through her exhaustion as he looks down with a calm, unreadable expression. Lying defeated, Stardust can only watch as the villain she was meant to capture stands over her. He quietly congratulates her on her victory, admitting she surpassed even his wildest expectations. Agostic gently covers her eyes, telling her to rest before making his quiet escape from the scene. He gently pats the unconscious hero's head, a surprisingly tender gesture for a villain. Standing over her, he formally concludes his broadcast, thanking his audience for tuning in. Back at their base, his white-haired companion energetically rouses her sleepy teammates. She scolds Agostic and the other woman for being so drained after a single successful operation. To their surprise, she presents a simple but steaming hot breakfast of noodles and eggs. Agostic and his other accomplice look on in amazement at her unexpected culinary skills. He smiles warmly and pats her head in thanks, much to her feigned indifference. Her playful demeanor shifts as she suddenly pinches his side with surprising strength. She then orders him to sit down and eat before the noodles get soggy, ending the tender moment. The villainous trio finally sits down together, gratefully enjoying a well-earned meal. The two accomplices happily slurp their noodles, enjoying the simple meal after their mission. His white-haired companion suddenly grabs the remote control with a determined look. She leaps onto the couch, excitedly announcing it's time to watch the news. With a confident smile, she declares they'll see how the media is covering their great achievement. Agostic feels certain his villainous image is now solidified and Stardust's popularity has skyrocketed. His smug expression quickly fades into utter confusion as he watches the broadcast. The news isn't about his villainy, but a shocking rumor that he and Stardust are secretly dating. The report details the events following Stardust's heroic train stop from the previous day. It then focuses on a single misleading photo of Agostic gently touching the fallen hero's head. The anchor suggests their relationship seems less like enemies and more like lovers, a narrative that is spreading rapidly. Agostic's hand clenches the remote, cracking it in a fit of pure rage. Elsewhere, Stardust mirrors his fury, both of them screaming in denial at the absurd news report. The media fuels the fire, framing the hero and villain as the nation's hottest new celebrity couple. A news analyst presents a photo of a cryptic message Agostic left at a previous crime scene. He passionately misinterprets the message as a romantic gift from the villain to the hero. The broadcast then replays the moment Agostic knelt over the fallen Stardust, praising her victory. The analyst declares this tender scene is undeniable proof of their secret love affair. The rumor spreads like wildfire as people share the romanticized photo on their phones. In an empty lecture hall, Shin-ri sits alone, stunned by the news circulating on her phone. She massages her temples in frustration, wondering if the entire world has gone completely insane. She internally scoffs at the dating rumors, finding the idea of a relationship with the villain completely absurd. Yet beneath her disgust, she senses a strange, conflicting emotion she can't quite identify. Her friend suddenly appears, attributing Haru's worn-out expression to the stress of her assignments. She cheerfully presents a flyer for a sweet treat, declaring it's time for them to go out and have some fun. Taking her surprised friend's hand, she insists that Haru just needs to trust her for a day of fun. The scene shifts to a modern building, marking the start of their spontaneous day out. Meanwhile, Agostic's white-haired companion throws a comical tantrum on the floor, desperate to go out. Moved by her pleas, Agostic calmly announces that the entire team will be going on an outing together. The white-haired girl erupts in unrestrained joy, thrilled at the prospect of a day out. Looking at the same flyer, he notes this outing wasn't in his original plan but casually wonders what could possibly go wrong. Haru's friend smiles, thinking about their spontaneous trip to an ice cream festival. They arrive at the bustling event, surprised by the large crowd enjoying the sunny afternoon. Elsewhere at the festival, Agostic's white-haired companion teases him for his predictable all-black attire. She laughs heartily at his excuse, her face lighting up with genuine amusement. Agostic is momentarily stunned by her bright smile and unusually familiar way of speaking to him. Her attention is suddenly captured by a stand selling a unique rice-flavored ice cream. Overcome with excitement, she bolts towards the stall, leaving her companions behind. His other accomplice, Subin, notes how happy the outing has made their friend, confirming it was a good idea. Agostic tries the ice cream and is pleasantly surprised by how delicious it is. He offers a spoonful to Subin, encouraging her to try the tasty treat as well. Subin becomes incredibly flustered, her face turning red at his simple offer to share. Their white-haired companion playfully urges her to try it, but Subin shyly refuses. Her mind races with the implications of sharing a spoon, her heart pounding in her chest. Giving in to the pressure, she cautiously takes a small bite from the spoon. She admits the ice cream is delicious while her friend looks on in stunned silence. The white-haired girl suddenly spots a mango ice cream stand and bolts towards it, leaving her teammates behind. She presses her face against the glass, her eyes sparkling with an intense craving for the golden treat. With boundless energy, she enthusiastically orders a cone as Agostic and Subin finally catch up. The vendor cheerfully mistakes the trio for a young family, much to Agostic's confusion. He awkwardly plays along while Subin blushes, creating a comical and very dysfunctional family portrait. His white-haired companion laughs, teasing him about how old he must look to be mistaken for a father. He retorts that her short stature is the real reason, much to her comical annoyance. The vendor cheerfully returns with their order, presenting 1 cone and 2 cups of ice cream. His companion proudly declares that the leader of the mango troupe must, of course, have mango ice cream. The vendor freezes in terror, suddenly realizing he's serving the infamous villain himself. His fear quickly turns to pride as he reveals a custom shirt, outing himself as a dedicated fan. While his companion gives an enthusiastic thumbs up, Agostic looks completely drained by his own fame. He later spots a balloon dart game, confidently boasting about his legendary dart-throwing skills. As his accomplices watch from a bench, he prepares to demonstrate his supposed mastery. The white-haired girl eyes him suspiciously, questioning if he's planning to cheat with his powers. The dart game's prizes are displayed with a massive ice cream cone as the grand prize. While the vendor hypes the 10-scoop ice cream, his white-haired companion declares she wants the teddy bear instead. Agostic points out that winning first place means he can choose whichever prize he wants. With a confident smirk, he promises his companion that he'll win the teddy bear for her. He secretly prepares to use his telekinesis, planning to cheat his way to victory. As he steps up to the booth, a woman in the crowd thinks he looks strangely familiar. Her eyes widen in a moment of sudden shocking recognition. The woman is revealed to be Shin Ryu's friend, Chai Hyun, who is also at the festival. Chai Hyun points out the prize, inspiring Ryu to confidently declare she will win it for her. Agostic freezes in place, sweating nervously as his companion asks why he has suddenly stopped. His companions stare in disbelief as the blonde woman confidently cuts in front of their boss. The villain and his crew are comically shoved aside by Haru, who claims the spot with a triumphant smile. Her eyes narrow with competitive fire, ready to show him how it's done. Agostic is completely thrown off his game, staring blankly as his rival stands beside him. In a parallel scene, Chai Hyun excitedly points out a rice ice cream stand to her friend. She playfully offers Rue a spoonful of her own dessert, trying to lift her spirits. Rue is pleasantly surprised by the taste, her tense expression finally softening. Chai Hyun beams, relieved to see her friend's mood finally brightening up. The two enjoy their treats, though Rue's mind still seems to be elsewhere. With a renewed sense of energy, Chai Hyun grabs her friend's hand to lead her to the next attraction. Chai Hyun spots a mango ice cream stand, excitedly suggesting they try some. Haru's face lights up with pure delight at the thought of her favorite flavor. Her joy instantly evaporates, replaced by a dark scowl as she remembers the villain's fan club. The vendor proudly shows off his custom Mango Troop apron, revealing the stall is dedicated to Agostic. Despite her annoyance, Ru sits with her friend, trying to enjoy the treat. She forces a smile for Chae-hyun, pretending that everything is perfectly fine. The two friends share a rare peaceful moment under the blooming cherry blossom trees. For a brief moment, Ru lets go of her frustrations, genuinely enjoying the beautiful day. Chae-hyun's attention is then drawn to a balloon dart game, unknowingly pointing towards Agostic's group. A competitive spark ignites in Haru's eyes as she considers the new challenge. Haru's eyes light up with a competitive smile, finding the simple carnival game an amusing challenge. The two friends approach the booth where the vendor explains the grand prize for a perfect score. Standing side by side, the hero and villain create an awkward scene that leaves Agostic's crew completely stunned. Agostic feels a strange sense of familiarity as he studies the blonde woman, certain he's met her before. Snapped back to reality by her friends cheering, Ru focuses on the target with newfound determination. She throws the dart with incredible force, obliterating the first balloon in a flash of light. Agostic watches in disbelief, remembering that Stardust's official powers are only strength and flight. He quickly understands that her strength is on a completely different level than he anticipated. The dart in her hand seems to crackle with latent energy, hinting at the immense physical power she wields. Her throw unleashes a golden streak of energy that rockets across the festival grounds with terrifying speed. He internally notes that her strength can become absurdly powerful at will, a sign of her future potential. Agostic recalls that her powers also include a developing sixth sense, allowing her to instinctively detect danger. A wave of panic hits him as he realizes she might be able to sense his villainous identity right now. He imagines a disastrous future where Stardust exposes them all, leading to their immediate capture. The final dart hits its mark with explosive force, securing her a perfect score. While her friend celebrates the amazing feat, Haru casually brushes it off as an easy win. The vendor proudly presents the massive 10-scoop ice cream cone to the victorious duo. Snapped out of his daze by the vendor, Agostic awkwardly prepares to take his long overdue turn. His companion tries to cheer him on, but he's too flustered by the unexpected turn of events. Deciding the situation is too risky, he plans to throw without his powers and make a swift exit. He unleashes a volley of darts, all flying towards their targets with perfect unnatural precision. Every single balloon bursts in a simultaneous colorful explosion, securing another flawless score. His own impulsive victory leaves him and his companions utterly baffled by his competitive streak. Agostic watches the blonde woman leave, internally admitting her skills are just as impressive as his. The vendor presents him with the grand prize, a giant teddy bear he had promised to his companion. As his group tries to make a quick getaway, the vendor calls out, insisting they take their prize. The vendor mistakenly offers to deliver the bear to Haru's friend, creating an awkward mix-up. In the ensuing confusion, Chae-hyun stumbles, sending the massive ice cream cone flying through the air. Agostic lunges forward, realizing a simple accident could expose them all and lead to catastrophe. He panics, determined to prevent this disastrous encounter with his rival at any cost. He dives to the ground in a comical display of agility, narrowly avoiding the airborne dessert. His companions and Haru's friend rush to his side, calling out his name in alarm. Chae-hyun apologizes profusely, but Agostic internally panics, desperate to escape the situation. He quickly recovers with a forced smile, downplaying his dramatic dive as a simple reflex. Turning to his frozen accomplices, he frantically signals for them to flee before they're all exposed. With a strained grin, he grabs his companions, determined to make a swift and unnoticed exit. Haru watches the man's strange behavior, a flicker of suspicion crossing her face. The peaceful festival suddenly descends into chaos as a new threat sends the crowd running in terror. A massive fanged reptilian creature emerges from the dust and debris. The A-class villain Crocodile Man roars into the sky, demanding a showdown with Stardust. Amidst the panic, Agostic quickly gathers his companions, pulling them into a protective huddle. He internally questions the villain's sudden appearance, realizing this event is happening far too early in the timeline. Haru sprints towards the danger, her friend calling out in vain as the hero's instincts take over. His white-haired companion frets, knowing there's no time to retrieve the tech that conceals their identities. Agostic foresees a dark future where Stardust's premature reveal sets her on a path of misery. His expression hardens with absolute resolve, vowing to prevent that tragic outcome at all costs. He unleashes a powerful surge of energy, preparing to teleport his entire team out of the public eye. In a flash of purple light, the trio vanishes from the festival grounds just as chaos erupts. Reappearing in his villain attire, he announces he's grabbing his gear, leaving his accomplice to wonder about his next move. He orders his white-haired companion to prepare for a broadcast, signaling a new plan is already in motion. The reptilian villain roars, threatening to destroy everything if Stardust doesn't show herself. His rampage is cut short by a cheerful voice that suddenly echoes through grounds. A massive speaker blasts an announcement, heralding the arrival of the era's one true villain. Hegastic reveals himself with a sinister grin, proudly claiming his title as the nation's public enemy. He stands atop a building, admonishing the Crocodile Man for daring to cause a scene in his territory. With a chilling smile, he holds up a microphone and delivers a final deadly warning to the other villain.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.